Want to know more about rock, jazz, rhythm, and blues? You got to start from the bottom up. The Bass Guitar Channel radio show with David C. Gross and Tom Semioli. Two bass road warriors tell tales, interview the greats, and spin more great music than you can shake a Chapman stick at. The Bass Guitar Channel radio show with your hosts, David C. Gross and Tom Semioli, every Monday at 8 on Cygnus Radio.
Hi, this is David Gross for the Bass Guitar Channel radio show on CygnusRadio.com. I want to welcome head honcho for Know Your Bass Player, my co-host Tom Semioli, and today we are interviewing Rory Gallagher's great bass player, Gerry McAvoy. So let's get started. Hi, Gerry. Hi, Tom.
I got to get my Just for Men beard dye.
No. It makes you look extinguished. Plus, all the young girls like the extinguished beard look. So you're good.
Was that it? You really? Yeah.
I totally agree with that.
So, Gerry, you're in Paris?
No, we're in it's called Central France.
Okay.
It's the Loire Valley.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
How was life there amid COVID?
It's the same as everywhere else, you know. I mean, we have curfews every night from 7 o'clock in the evening till 6 a.m. the next morning, and they're discussing. I mean, Paris, I think, is going back into lockdown.
Yes, I believe the UK as well.
Possibly the UK, but I think the UK are getting the vaccines out a lot better than here in Europe, you know.
Have you gotten your jab yet?
I haven't. April. I'm due to have a jab in April, or the first one anyway. So fingers crossed.
Okay. Well, David, you actually survived COVID, David.
Yes, I had 9 really awful days.
Oh, really?
I have a 16-year-old daughter, Gerry, and I said to her, don't have your friends over. And, of course, you know, what do I know?
Yeah, I know. You're only the dad.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you survived. That's good to hear anyway.
Yeah, it's good. The weird thing was I was starving the entire time.
Really?
And that's such a bizarre symptom. So I lost my taste buds. My wife made a ham sandwich with Coleman's. I could have eaten an entire bottle of Coleman's mustard, and I wouldn't have, not a thing.
Crazy. That's crazy, really.
Yeah. So, Gerry, I got to tell you, I was looking on your bio and stuff, and I did not know John Paris had a Cream 55 bass.
57, I think it was, yeah.
Because I was in his original band. I was a bass player in his original band.
Wow.
And I never saw that bass.
Wow.
Oh, would I have loved the chance to have played that one. It looks beautiful.
Yeah, it's a nice instrument. It certainly is. I used it quite a lot with Rory, obviously, over the years.
Yeah.
I noticed, and I had seen you guys back in the 70s. I think I saw you with Rory 77, 78. I noticed on a YouTube video, and that's where we get our information now, that you actually had the ashtray, the big thick plate, down by the bridge. Was that to rest your palm when you were playing with a pick?
Yeah, as far as I can remember, yeah. I mean, I took that off eventually.
Okay.
But, I mean, I still have it somewhere, you know. But I can't remember the reason why I left it on. It's probably because it was there when I bought it.
Okay.
So, and possibly when I was using the plectrum, yeah, it might have helped, yeah.
It did. I think, because I'm always, David and I, we love to drill holes in basses. I mean, it's not an instrument unless you drill a hole in it, right?
That's true, yeah.
It's not your own.
And, I saw that and I said, wow, that's a great idea, because when you're playing with a plectrum, you tend to play by the bridge, and, your palm can get scraped on the bridge, the old Fender bridges.
Yeah. Or you can dampen it by mistake or whatever, you know. I mean, I never thought about that. Probably in my mind's eye, maybe that's the reason why, yeah, because of the plectrum, yeah.
All right, so that could be a custom. We should get called custom Fender custom shop.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Well, Gerry, we were interviewing Rick Wills.
Oh, I know Rick, yeah.
And Rick took a piece off the bottom of a toilet seat.
Yeah, the buffer, the little rubber buffer.
Oh, yeah.
And he uses that by his pickup, so he rests his thumb on that.
Oh, well.
So we're searching around for old toilets to, for the business right now.
Well, you should patent it if Rick hasn't already patented it. Fender toilet seat.
It's let's start from the beginning. Gerry, now you started playing bass. Actually, you quoted as saying that Muddy Waters changed your life at the age of 13. Tell us about growing up in Belfast and being attracted to the blues.
I mean, what it was, we were actually very lucky because in Belfast there was like an old indoor market, which sadly has gone now, called Smithfield in the centre of Belfast. And they had a plethora of record stores for some reason. And one of these record stores, I can't remember, but they had the most amazing blues collections in there.
Okay.
There's a story that goes back to, during the war when before D-Day, a lot of the young black GIs were actually stationed in Derry and Belfast before they went to Europe.
Okay.
And they brought their records with them, whatever, and when they were a bit hard up, they would sell the records in these record stores, That's the story, how it goes.
Swimming in the deep blue sea, I have all you good-looking women fishing after me, fishing after me, fishing after me. Oh Lord, sure enough I would. Oh Lord, I went to my baby's house. Just not left. Shown up he done. Oh Lord. Shown up he done. Well, my mother, she told my father, just before that I was born, you got a boy child coming. He's gonna be a rolling stone. You're gonna be a rolling stone. You're gonna be a rolling stone. Oh Lord, sure enough he gone. Oh yeah. Well, I feel, yes, I feel, woman like the Lord on, time ain't long. I'm a captive bird thing smoking back down the road I'm going, back down the road I'm going, back down the road I'm going. Oh Lord, sure enough I'm gone.
So an amazing blues collection. I mean, Van Morrison's mother or father, I can't remember, had an amazing blues collection just because of that, Van, obviously from Belfast as well. With the Muddy Waters thing, Muddy came a bit later. I mean, when I was growing up in Belfast, I mean, we were playing the top 40 of the day. You had to get a gig. I mean, we were playing Tamla Motown, soul, whatever, American, pop stuff. And then a friend of mine managed to get hold of a John Mell album. The John Mell Blues Breakers, the famous one with the Eric Clapton comic, the Beano.
Beano.
Yes.
So we sort of listened to that and we're thinking, wow, this is completely different. This is, we've never heard stuff like this. And Clapton's guitar playing was like something we've never heard before. So obviously, we checking out the who wrote the songs, like Otis Rush, Willie Dixon, and so on. So then we started to investigate these guys, and then we found Muddy Waters. And I was like, wow, Muddy Waters, he was like, heavy metal. of his day. You know, he was like way over the top. It was incredible. And that's when I sort of really got stuck into the blues after hearing that.
It's interesting. We speak to your peers, Rick Wills, Jim Rodford, Mickey Feet, Mo Foster. What is it about American blues, which is, I guess, music that's drawn from suffering, slavery, resonates so profoundly with the Irish and the British? What is it? What is the connection there?
Well, with the Irish, it's obviously slavery.
Okay.
No, don't quote me on that. That's a joke. It's hard. I don't know. I don't know if there's any similarity between the music and the way that people lived in the deep south or whatever it may be, when the music came from in Ireland.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, maybe because there's suffering, like, and there was suffering in Ireland as well, so maybe there's a connection there with that, but I think it's just the sound of the music that turns us on, more than anything else,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I guess it was the right time at the right place kind of thing. Because you're bringing up, I'm thinking, well, to me, I guess the first popular Irish band was them.
Yeah, they were the first ones to sort of break out of Ireland.
Yeah.
And then obviously Van, after them, he went to the States, to the United States, and he based himself there for years. So he was probably the pioneer of all that, I mean, prior to Van, we had folk groups that came from Ireland. The Clancy brothers, they moved to the States and made it their home as well. So I mean, it's always been there, that sort of immigration sort of attitude, mental attitude.
And if you think about it, the blues, in its own way, is a very and not negative, a very simple thing, but the Irish and narrative and
storytelling,
you could really understand the connection almost more so lyrically than musically.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay, there's the knowledge of storytelling. I mean, what the guys were doing, Muddy and those guys, they were storytelling.
Yeah,
in quite a unique fashion.
Yeah,
because before that it was bebop, doo-wop, bop, bop, bop. But then these guys came along and you listen to the lyrics and you go, oh my God, I mean, that's pretty heavy.
Yeah.
So there is that. I mean, there is that nature of storytelling, which a lot of similarities with the Irish. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, you grew up in a golden age. You talk about playing top 40. I don't think there's any better boot camp for a bass player than playing top 40 and the music of Motown or Tomlin in the UK. Must have had a tremendous effect on the bands and your peers.
Oh, it was because that's in Belfast. All the bands were playing soul or Tamla Motown, and I was hooked on Tamla Motown. James Jameson's one of my idols. The famous one finger James Jameson.
The Hook.
The Hook, and I used to listen to James Jameson and those bass riffs, and you could not help but get some knowledge from what that guy was doing, and later on Bob Babbitt, another fantastic bass player from the same camp, from the Hitsville camp,
Mm-hmm.
I'm very lucky to have grown up in the 60s and playing music in the 60s and been able to listen to those guys because they were innovators.
Yeah,
throughout the 60s, we were lucky with innovation. From the Beatles to Jimi Hendrix to whatever. So yes, yeah. I'm not putting any modern music down because there's innovation in modern day music as well. But I think personally, I was very lucky to have grown up and to listen to these guys and seen some of these guys live as well, which was I was very lucky as well.
At that time, the bass was really, as an instrument, it was in its infancy. Now, your first instrument was a top 20 bass you got in the Bell Music catalog?
That's right, yeah. Well, I was a guitar player prior to that, and we lost the bass player and our sort of band leader, Mr. Jim Ferguson, old friend of mine.
You went to be a butcher, right? Which is a solid career.
He said, you're going to take over the bass now, McAvoy, and that's it, you're out of the band. So that's how I became a bass player. And the first one was like a top 20 from the old Bell catalogue, you know. I think it's the same in the States with the Sears and Roebucks. I think it was the same sort of thing, you know.
Do you still have it?
I don't. I don't. I think I can't remember. I gave it away or I swapped it. No, I swapped it for a Vox Cougar bass guitar.
Right. Okay.
Which is pretty. It was pretty horrible as well.
But how did you explain? Because people didn't, people look at you on stage and they see a guitar, so they think it's a guitar. How do you explain to people what does that instrument do?
Yeah, well, it's the bottom end of the band, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, it's the basis of the band, you know. I mean, you wouldn't have rock and roll without a bass guitar and a drum.
Right. Not without the electric. Mm-hmm. And then you got your hands on a 61P bass, yes?
I did, yeah. Luckily, my mother, God rest her, she managed to a hire purchase, was called. You paid every week, it was £60, I think it was.
Wow, that was a lot of money.
That was a lot of money in those days, yeah.
And do you still have the 61P? You still?
No, that one went as well. It was actually, it was sold because, that guitar went through the wars. That precision. I mean, I actually, without being knowledgeable about how guitar is built or how to maintain a guitar, I actually painted the guitar with house paint. So eventually, when I got to see a music technician, he managed to take all the house paint off it and lacquer it properly, But it had been through the war, so I put it up for auction or for sale. It was in Christie's, actually, in London. Oh. It went up for auction at Christie's. I mean, that would have been sort of late 70s. And it was a Japanese collector bought it for a huge amount of yen, I believe.
Look at that. So you made money.
Huge amount of yen.
But and your Deep Joy was your first real professional band where you started traveling? That's
right. Yeah, we made the initial move to London in 1970. I think it was May 1970, and we were lucky to be. We ended up in the same camp as Rory's band, Taste.
Right.
The Robert Sigwood organisation, who have Mary Clapton, so on, the Bee Gees, so on and so on. So we were lucky in that respect because we ended up doing quite a few shows with Taste, supporting Taste and the band Deep Joy. So we were lucky in that respect,
yeah. Yeah, and it was a very fertile music scene back then. I think you guys were working with the Faces. It was Small Faces at the time, I guess.
Yeah.
Can you take us back there? What were some? Was there a sort of a camaraderie, or was there a friendly competition between the bands?
In Belfast or in London or
London? In London, when you made to London.
In London, yeah. I mean. There was a sort of camaraderie between bands, yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, we played with a lot of Atomic Rooster, we played with Taste, we played with 10 Years After. Yeah. Loads of bands, and there was no backstabbing. There was no, everybody was fairly cool, sort of help each other out,
Uh-huh. And then, how did Rory come to choose you? I know he broke up Taste, and they were, kind of a raucous trio, almost out of the mold of Cream. But then I guess when he wanted to go under his own name, he picked you, I guess perhaps because he probably had a similar love for rhythm and blues, and you play with a rhythm and blues style.
Yeah. I mean, towards the end of 1970, after Taste had split up, I think they split up in October or something, 1970. We split up in December. Rory would come down to a couple of clubs that we were playing in with his brother, Donald, and sort of sit down and check out the band. I mean, at the time, I thought he was just coming down, just have a drink and check out the band, and just. But I think maybe he was checking out myself and Wilger, the drummer at the time, who was drummer with Deep Joy. And that was it. I mean, we went back to Belfast. I mean, we sort of gave up the ghost, with Deep Joy because it wasn't going anywhere, and we split up New Year's Eve. And then it must have been the end of January. I got a telephone call from Rory, At first I thought it was Wilger because I heard the Irish accent, and then he said, "No, it's Rory here. Do you fancy coming over to London to have a blow, to have a jam, you know?" I went, "Wow, yeah." And that was it. So I flew over to London, and Wilger had stayed in London at this stage. He didn't come back to Belfast. So Donald, Rory's brother, picked me up at the airport, and we drove down to a little rehearsal room in Kensington, West London. And Rory was there, and Wilger was there already set up with the drums, and I didn't have a bass guitar with me, so there was a music store upstairs, and they got me a P bass, and we started just playing, and for about 3 or 4 hours, you know, and it was amazing. It was fantastic. You know, I mean, the simple fact, I mean, I was a fan. Don't forget, I mean, when I was a kid growing up in Belfast, I mean, we would go and see Taste in the famous Maritime Blues Club in Belfast, and you'd be there in the front going, "Wow, this guy's amazing," you know. And to be standing there playing with him, and it's only then when I started playing, because I could play with Wilger because we were a rhythm section anyway. We knew each other's sort of patterns or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
But just, you know, listening to Rory as we were playing, you just realised how good he was, you know.
Well, it was interesting for me because in America, you know, Taste was on Atco, which was an Atlantic subsidiary, and it was almost, because I really liked the band. I thought they pushed Cream a hell of a lot more than they did Taste. There were a great many similarities, but you know, Rory, even back then, of course, you know, his playing, you know, just shine.
Well, I mean, the comparison between Cream and Taste. I mean, Cream were great, and Taste were great, but there was this energy thing that Taste had. I mean, Cream was sort of more sort of you know, long solos, and which was great. You know, I mean, I was a big fan of Jack Bruce. I mean, still am. You know, God rest him. But it was this energy thing that Rory had with Taste. I mean, not just Rory, but John Wilson, the drummer, and Richard McCracken. I mean, the three of them were it was like a powerhouse.
Yeah,
it really was. You know. Yeah.
Well, when you started, what was your approach with Rory? Because your trio with Rory was more, I think, song oriented. I mean, certainly you stretched out and improvised, but you were kind of more working the pocket and more supportive of Rory. Whereas you look at a band like Cream, and it was like three of them were soloing at the same time.
Yeah. That's it. Well, that was the way Rory wanted to do it. You know, I mean, you had to accept the fact that you were a sideman.
Right.
Both, you know, no matter who the musicians were with Rory, they were sidemen, you know. And I think maybe because of Taste, I mean, not so much the musicians, but there was a lot of, you know, problems with the management and Taste, and I think Rory sort of wanted to shy away from that, you know, and he wanted to be the you know, the captain of his own dreams, you know. He wanted to make his road, you know.
Right.
You know, that's why there was no management. I mean, Rory took care of everything until his brother eventually took over management. But Rory, he would keep his cards pretty close to his chest. Mm-hmm. You know.
And and was the type of band leader that sort of pretty much gave you leeway with what you wanted to play, or?
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, recording. I mean, when we rehearsed for an album, say, I mean, Rory wouldn't come in with a sheet, or, you know, he wouldn't come in with dots. He'd just come in, plug in, and start playing. Okay. And looking, because I was a guitar player, so I knew the chords that Rory was playing, so I could follow it. He would never turn around and say, "Well, this goes from G to I minor, from E to." He would just play it, and we would pick it up. So within that, you could make up your own. You could do your own thing, you know, which Rory encouraged.
Yeah,
that's the best way to get things out of a musician, you know, to encourage it, you know.
Yeah, and I think, you know, one of the reasons I think your albums have sort of the exuberance, the excitement of a live performance is you guys were constantly on the road.
We were, yeah. Plus the fact, I mean, the way Rory recorded, he wanted to record live. He wanted to do like his heroes did, you know, because they recorded live.
Okay.
You know? I mean, some people say it was, it was too, maybe he should have gone in a different direction, but that was Rory. That's the way he wanted it. I mean, the first couple of albums were completely live, the recordings, you know, in the studio.
But you for a trio, and then I guess you had Lou Martin came along in 1972. You still had a very full sound.
Yeah. Well, I mean, within a trio, I mean, you learn yourself how to your notation must go in a different direction. Mm-hmm. Like in a 20-piece band, it's completely different because you have your own section, you have your own, But and obviously, I mean the solos. I mean, Rory's solos were ad-libbed. There was the same solo every night, so you would take off in that direction. And as I say, luckily, being a guitar player as well, I could watch and see what he was doing. I could sort of feel what he was going to do before he did it sometimes.
Yeah. Okay. And then, I mean, you certainly, the bands you tour with, Frank Zappa, The Faces, Rush, all incredible artists. So you really had to rise to the occasion night after night.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, with Rush, luckily enough, the first tour Rush did of the States out of Canada was with Rory. So they were the support act for Rory. And later on, they became mega and invited Rory on the tour in 84, I think, 83, 84. Mm-hmm. And the other bands, I mean, I was a kid. I was 19 when we played with Frank Zappa in Milwaukee. And I'm thinking 19 years of age from Belfast. And here I'm at the side of the stage watching Frank Zappa. That's when he had the two guys from the Turtles.
Flo and Eddie.
Flo and Eddie, yeah. And Ainsley Dunbar on drums. So, I mean, as a kid, I mean, playing the Whiskey A Go-Go when you're 19 years of age is like, wow, here we go. What else can you do? What else is there?
Think about how many American kids wanted to do that and didn't.
Hey, listen, absolutely. The only thing, I couldn't get a drink in the hotel bar. I was too young.
Well, you could have in New York. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, in New York you could have done. In California you couldn't.
Well, I remember I had a friend who owned a hippie clothing store, and he was able to get imports. I think that company was Jet, an importer. So I remember them. Yeah, I got the first Rory album. I guess it was early '71, and wow! I mean, "Hands Up" was or should have been the hit single from that record.
I didn't know what you mean. Yeah, it was fairly commercial. Yeah.
Yeah, but a great record. You guys sounded great. It's a good
I think it was less raucous than Taste. It was a lot. It was a little bit more gentle, that album, than the previous, like On the Boards Taste album. Which was like fairly hard rock, blues rock. And I think that Rory sort of wanted it. He was testing the water with that album, as far as his writing was concerned. So there was jazz influence, there was blues influence, and there was a little bit of pop in there as well, Yeah. So it was an interesting album.
I think Rory probably doesn't get the credit he deserves as a writer. I mean, even Dylan was a fan of Rory's.
He was, yeah. Yeah, I mean, Dylan loved I Could Have Had Religion.
Right.
He loved that track. Because I remember when he came to one of the shows in Los Angeles, he came backstage, and that's what he was talking about, because I think he wanted to record that track.
And you also had, it seems like Rory's, you had a rotating cast of drummers, right? You had Wilger, you had Rod, you had Ted, you had Brendan. Yet he kept you in the bass chair.
Yeah. Yeah, for whatever reason, yeah, I was there all the way through. Well, for 20 years anyway.
You knew the material.
And was Rory the type of, if I remember correctly, reading or seeing one of your interviews, because unfortunately your book is out of print in the United States, and it's only available in German in the United States right now on Kindle. So, David, do you speak German? You don't read German. Nine. But Rory the type to change the set every night and throw in songs that maybe you guys hadn't done in a long time?
Yeah, he would do that, yeah. Well, there was never a set list with the early days. Never a set list. No, Rory, and sometimes, normally if you're on tour, he would have the opening song was normally the same song. But after that, it was anybody's guess.
So he would just call the tune?
Yeah, and in later years, he would throw songs in, like in the sort of late 70s, early 80s, he'd throw a song like Cinneboy in. And that would have been Brendan on drums, and Brendan never played Cinderboy in his life, and for me to try and remember it after, 11 years, whatever, wasn't easy either. So he would do that. He would throw songs in,
But that's healthy for a band, actually.
Of course it is. And if the band can't, step up to the podium and do it, then, it's like Springsteen said, the E Street Band, if they can't play certain songs, and they're not worth their, you got to be able to, you had to pay your dues, playing in the clubs in the 60s, and like we guys did, and like they did, and you knew those songs.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a performance-based medium at that time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I also think the three-piece band is one of the greatest settings for exploring. If the guitar player goes off, you're put in the position of how do we keep the audience focused on the tune. I think it's a wonderful situation. As a matter of fact, even in the jazz realm, when you have something like an Ornette Coleman, a saxophonist with bass and drums, it creates its own. You are the harmony and you are the rhythm. It's a fabulous position to be in.
It is. I mean, it's fantastic. It is. It's and you have to be brave. To go in some of those directions, because obviously there's you can't go too far either, but you have to have balls that you actually go and take it to that level, without overstepping the other guy.
Right. Exactly.
And with the three-piece, everybody's got to be working together, especially the bass and drums, because if Rory, the guitar player's out there soloing, we got to be way behind him. And also, bring it up to that level when the solos come in,
Yeah.
But it's enjoyable because you're free.
Yeah.
Up to a point, as long as you don't go above that mark, you're free.
Right. Well, Tom and I are always talking about how we have a pre-Jocko era and a post-Jocko era. All right. Okay. Tom's already smiling.
Yes.
And it seems that we're making a point of interviewing pre-Jocko players, at least at this point. We're 15, 16 interviews in, so to speak.
Okay.
And it confirms in my mind and amazes me at the same time that each and every one of the bass players has played another instrument, has learned music without the aid of YouTube or tablature.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Hard to believe.
Yeah, it is. In the present day, it's hard to believe. Yeah, because even I go to YouTube to learn things.
Well, it is a tremendous resource, but there's no substitute for like you paying your dues, getting on the bandstand. And as a matter of fact, Marcus Miller was mentioning that he has many students, and they all have great dexterity, but they have trouble playing with other people.
Yeah,
they can play with a video because a video does the same thing.
Yeah.
Over and over again. So they're obviously it's a whole different mindset now.
It is a completely different mindset. Yeah, I totally agree with that. And the experience of playing with different people. That's what it's all about. Yeah. To play off of another musician. It's one of the most rewarding things ever. To reach a pinnacle. If you're playing with whatever musician, I play with so many different drummers who had so many different styles. But that's the fun within all that. To read each other, to read what he's going to do, to read what he's going to do. And it's. Yeah,
and also to learn something.
Substitute for that.
Dynamics.
Yeah, absolutely.
You don't get dynamics with a YouTube video.
No, you don't. No, it's the highs and the lows. You don't get that.
How does it feel for you, Gerry, to go on YouTube and see yourself 40, 50 years ago? You're quite documented, the Rory Gallagher, all the BBC stuff and things like that. Do you ever go back and look and say, damn, what did I play that for? Or I could have done this, or, oh, that was a lot better than I remember.
Well, there you go. There's the evil of YouTube. Looking at yourself 40 years ago or 50 years ago, whatever it may be. I mean, it's there, you know. It's fun. I mean, I don't do it a lot, you know. When something comes up on Facebook or something, I might check it out, you know. And I don't actually delve into it too much, you know.
Yeah. But there are the benefits that, you know, we can watch the masters who've passed and just, you know, back in the day, of course, you had to buy a concert ticket, but now we can watch, you know, we could see Coltrane, we could see Miles, we could see Rory, we could see all those people and really learn from them. So there is, you know, it can be a useful tool.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I don't disagree with that at all. No.
One of my favorite records you did was Calling Card. Tell me, what was it like having Roger Glover, another bass player, as a producer?
It was great. It was a strange situation that because it was the first time Rory, well, besides with Taste, he had a producer.
Okay.
And it was the first time with his own band that he had a producer, and it was it wasn't comfortable. Mm-hmm. You know, because I mean, Roger obviously wanted to work in a certain direction.
Okay.
To tighten up the band more, so you know, it was less loose. It
was more commercial sound, yeah.
Yeah, and Rory was sort of against that, and I was sort of stuck in the middle with all this as well, you know, because I knew Roger quite well.
Okay.
We obviously toured with him with Deep Purple in the States, and I got to know him quite well. And but it wasn't a comfortable situation. It was a shame, really, and I think at the end, I mean, Rory got it mixed again by somebody else, the Glimmer.
Oh, is that right? Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, it was a shame.
When you look back at your career with Rory, I know you like Shadow Play, Moonchild, and Tattooed Lady. What are some of the tracks that you recall most fondly that stand out to you?
Wow, I mean, it was a lot. I mean, the early stuff. I mean, the first album, Laundromat, is a fantastic song. I mean, just for the riff alone, if nothing else, that was a lovely song.
This is David Gross for the Bass Guitar Channel radio show on CygnusRadio.com, along with Tom Semioli and Gerry McAvoy. Let's get back.
But there's so many songs, you know.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, later on in years, when Ted McKenna was in the band, you know, it became a bit more rocky, you know. I mean, because Rory had this marvelous way of writing songs sometimes to suit the musicians.
Okay.
So obviously when Ted came in after Rod, I mean, Rod was a very flamboyant sort of drummer, you know, very unusual drummer. And Rory loved that. He loved that sort of unusual style that Rod had. And when Ted came in, he was like a straightforward, you know, rock drummer, you know, extremely good. God rest him as well. So I mean, that's why the song sort of changed. I mean, with you know, Photo Finish and Top Priority. I mean, songs like Shadow Play. You know, it's a straightforward rock song. You know, the sort of punky rock. You know.
Yeah. Well, it seems like that approach really. You know, you look back and you know you listen to those records and they still sound fresh. They don't sound dated. And we're talking records that are, you know, close to half a century old, but you can put them on the turntable, if I may date myself, and like, wow, that's still a fresh sounding record.
Yeah, which is a good thing, you know. Absolutely, you know. I mean, I feel that as well. I mean that's why I put a band together myself, you know, to play Rory songs, you know, a few years ago, and that was the reason why. Because when I moved to France, before I was just listening to CDs and things, you know, because you know, I didn't get my old vinyl out. Didn't get a chance really. And when I moved to France, I managed to get the old record player out and got the vinyl out and started listening to the vinyl again. And obviously all the Rory albums I had, you know, because I hadn't listened to them for years because I was with a different band then, a band called Man Below Zero. And it's only then I realized how good the songs were, you know, because if you sort of go away for a few years and don't listen to those songs, you know, I mean, and then you come back and listen to them and you go, wow, these songs are great, you know, really good.
And that's what prompted Band of Friends?
It is, yeah. That was the idea, yeah. Because I mean, and I had to get the right people to play the songs, you know. And luckily, Ted McKenna was around. He wasn't playing, and we got Ted and this young guitar player from Amsterdam, Marcel Schoppenzeel. And we put it together and went out on the road, and it worked extremely well.
How did the show go last week?
The online thing?
Yes.
Yeah, it was great.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, it was really good. You can still check it out. It's on the website, Band of Friends website. And it's on YouTube. There you go.
Well, it's just interesting that the Irish and the English brought blues back to Americans and taught us about the blues. And now with Band of Friends, you're reintroducing a new generation to the legacy of Rory and what you guys did back in the day.
That's right, yeah, which is great, because it's. I mean, you would imagine that most of the people who would come to those concerts, Band of Friends concerts, would be of a certain age.
Yeah,
very lucky to have a lot of young people actually come along, and it's great to see these young faces in the audience, and they're enjoying the music,
Mm-hmm.
We've actually done a couple of trips to the US, and we used another guitar player from. He's actually from the Isle of Man, but he lives in Chicago. Davey knows.
Okay. Okay.
He's excellent. And we've done a couple of trips. We've done 4 trips now to the States.
I want to play a couple of your tunes, Railway Station and Can't Win 'Em All. Got Soft Touch, White Boys Lost in the Blues, and of course, Lonely Mile.
Oh, cool, yeah.
I love how you play slow blues. And, just getting back for a second, I think one of the things that makes our music, meaning 60s, 70s music, different. You don't need an entourage. You don't need and I'm not saying this in a negative way,
right,
even though I feel negative about it. I'm just stating facts. You don't have there's a great cartoon with a kid meeting his girlfriend's father. And the caption is, "I hear you're a musician." And the kid goes, "Oh, yes, I've got a laptop and I'm a DJ." And the father's caption is, "You've got 10 seconds to get the fuck out of my house." I'm listening to this. And that's why, obviously, you're getting young crowds. They want to hear music. They want to hear something and be able to see people performing. I think, the blues always goes in and out. You know what I mean?
It does. It goes up and down, yeah.
I think this post-pandemic is going to show a real rise in blues rock again. And I'll tell you something interesting. Would you believe that Sweetwater, that internet musical instrument company, the last year made $1 billion? Think about that.
And didn't Fender sell most guitars last year? I believe
900,000 guitars.
Wow. Well, that's encouraging.
Isn't it? It's great. There's so many positives about this that, within amongst all the tragedy that it brings. But I think kids are going to start listening again. I at least to this kind. Not my daughter, because I'm uncool and old. But I think it's a good sign. And obviously, Band of Friends.
Well, that's encouraging. Actually, I didn't realize those figures. That's very encouraging. Yeah. And hopefully, at the end of all this, we can get out and start using our fingers again.
The funny thing is, if you listen to a lot of hip hop and electronic music, and you dig deep, you'll hear they're really blues progressions. They're 1-4-5 Chicago blues progressions. You can hear, they're still sampling Willie Dixon lines somewhere in there. So it's not like the blues have gone anywhere. It's just that they're just in a different platform right now.
It is. It's undercover.
So, Gerry, what does the future hold? When we get out of this pandemic, if we get out of this plague in 2021, what do you have yet to accomplish?
Well, I keep on doing what we're doing. I mean, the band has sort of changed a little bit since obviously we lost Ted 2 years ago, which is a shame. Very sad. So we've got Brendan playing drums now. Brendan O'Neill, who played with Rory during the 80s, and two other guitar players, young German kid and a guy from England, Paul Rose, and a guy called Stephen Rapp. So at the moment, everything has been rescheduled from 2020 to 2021.
Right.
They've been rescheduled now to 2022.
Yeah.
But at the moment, everything is ready to go in September of this year.
Okay.
So fingers crossed and I hope for the best.
And David, of America?
Yeah, hopefully next year. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, we should have been there last year. We should have been there last September. The tour was booked, but for the obvious reason, it didn't happen.
You were at the Iridium a couple of years ago, if I recall.
Yeah, we've done it a couple of times actually. The first time was 2018. We played there. We did 5 nights there. It was great.
Yeah.
In fact, Johnny Paris showed up.
Oh, okay, right.
Yeah. I was out on the road
trying to get the guitar back.
Well, he knows I want it.
Gerry, you first came to America with Rory. What was your first impression when you saw L.A. and New York?
The women. No, I'm joking. I mean, I was like, when I was a kid, I mean, TV was American TV, in Belfast and Ireland. I mean, one of my favorite TV shows in the 60s was called 77 Sunset Strip.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Right back in of course, when we drove to the hotel from the airport in Los Angeles, when we arrived, William, myself, and Rory, we drove past Dino's Bar and Grill, which was what they used for 77 Sunset Strip. And I went, wow, here we are. That made it.
Kooky, lend me your comb.
Eddie Byrne, indeed. Kooky, lend me your comb. That was a song. That's right.
That's right.
So I was like, and obviously playing the Whiskey a Go-Go for 6 nights.
Sure.
Like it was like amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And your impressions of New York and Chicago, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I loved it all. Loved it. I mean, at first I was sort of knocked out by LA and not so knocked out by New York. But then years following that, all of a sudden New York became my place.
Mm-hmm.
It was like I love New York.
Mm-hmm.
I love the States in general.
Yeah.
I mean, we toured there so many times, and played there so many times.
But what were some of your favorite cities to tour here?
Oh yeah, hey, listen, Chicago.
Chicago, yeah.
Cleveland was great. I mean, that's rock and roll. That's the rock and roll city.
Yeah.
Cleveland, famous for rock and roll and hitmen, I believe. I mean, it was all great. Even some of the funkier towns we played in, like Wise, Virginia. Like I remember these towns, but it was all fun. It was all great.
And your tools of the trade, you obviously the Fender P bass. You played a Music Man for a while, didn't you?
Yeah, I've got the Music Man. Yeah, I mean, it's when I was with the other band after I left Rory, I joined a band called 9 Below Zero. And I used the Music Man in that band. It seemed it suited that type of music that we were playing with them. But then afterwards, I reverted back to the P bass again. When I got Band of Friends together, I got the little P bass out.
It's funny when I was looking at your discography with 9 Below Zero, a name popped up that I honestly hadn't seen or heard. We're actually, he and I are now friends on Facebook, but Tony Demure. I must have been one of the only people that had ever heard of the Fabulous Poodles.
Really?
No one in the States knew, but it didn't matter if the band was any good or any bad. Fabulous Poodles may be one of the best names.
I know. Fantastic name in it.
And with amplification, you went with SVT and Ampeg back in the day?
That was my favorite setup, the old SVT and the 8x10. Yeah, I mean, in the past, I used Marshall.
Sure.
And in the early days with Rory, we had amplification from Germany called Stramp.
Okay.
It was made by a guy called Peter Struven. And I know Alvin Lee used it, and Jack Bruce used it as well. It was like a copy of Marshall. But my favorite has always been the old SVT setup.
Yeah. Right. Nothing like hauling SVTs around. Reflect, when I think of your career, I always think in terms of albums. And now it's a whole different world because there really is no record industry as we know it. And we live in a streaming world now. I guess that's good because you can't have your record rejected by a record company.
That's true, yeah.
But you also don't have a record company to finance you. What do you think with streaming? Is it the best of times, the worst of times?
Well, it's a shame that the whole record company scenario went the way it went. I think people weren't keeping an eye on it. They should have been more careful. Especially when CDs come out. First of all, everybody's going, well, that's the death of vinyl. And then just bit by bit, I think the record companies just lost their way. And it's a shame because I think it was important. It was important to have a record company, and especially in the 60s and 70s, we know that, even the 80s. But now there's not. Everything's ethereal. Everything's from floats down from the air.
Yeah.
You download whatever you want to hear, and it's not the same as walking into that record store and picking up that vinyl and opening the sleeve and having a look and seeing who's playing on it. You know, it's it all seems a bit fake to me now.
Is the album format still relevant, you think, for artists?
Well, it's becoming more and more popular again.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's made a big comeback. You know, I mean, we're actually in the middle of doing an album, and it'll be the first one with Band of Friends to come out in vinyl.
Okay. Oh, all right.
Yeah, so that'll be out, well, towards the end of this year or next year, depending on rescheduling, depending on viruses and depending on everything else.
It's coming out of vinyl. We'll talk about the excitement of actually being able to design a record cover that people can actually hold in their hand. It's actually a work of art.
It is, absolutely. I mean, it is a work of art. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
You know, at the same time, you think about there's a new item on the table right now called an NFT. Have you heard about those?
No.
It's called a non-fungible. I'm not sure what the T is, but what it basically is, it's about 3 years old. Are you familiar with it, Tom?
I've never heard of fungible or non-fungible.
Fungible, non-fungible. What you should look it up because
it can't be funged.
It has nothing to do with mushrooms.
Oh.
But seriously, it's kind of like a Bitcoin for artists.
Okay.
All right. And back in, I guess it was 2017, it started making a very tiny roadway into the music industry. Artists now sell their digital assets, and it's a completely different thing. So my thought is, well, perhaps you can do an album cover, a record, and all of this digitally now through this NFT. I've been researching it a bit lately. It's a very interesting proposition.
Check it out, NFT.
And it certainly keeps, from what you were saying in terms of Rory wanted to be the captain of his own ship, I think this is an extraordinary way to be the captain, emperor, and key
God.
head. You know what I'm saying?
Concept, package, and design.
So it's a very interesting.
I do think with digital distribution, though, the artist does have control more of their work. I mean, a lot of legacy artists, that we interact with, Graham Parker, Ian Hunter, they're probably doing better now that they have their own merch, their own product, which they can sell at shows. So they actually do come away with more than when they had the big record deals. So
yeah, there is that. I mean, of course there is that. I mean, you are in command of what you have. Yeah. It's like, I mean, you sell your merch at gigs, and and that's maybe that's the way forward now. I mean, it's been like that for quite a few years now.
Yeah.
So there you go.
But then the thing becomes, you have to have a place to play so you can sell your merchandise.
Exactly.
It all comes back to performing.
It does. Absolutely, yeah. It does, yeah.
So we've come full circle, Gerry.
Yeah. Absolutely. Tell me.
All
Definitely.
right, be well, guys. Take care.
Thank you so much.
Take care, guys.
Bye-bye.
Thanks very much.
Bye now.
Bye now.
Well, thank you all for listening. This has been a great show. I want to thank Tom Semioli, head honcho for KnowYourBassPlayer.com, and, of course, Gerry McAvoy. Thank you so much for a great interview. It was wonderful speaking to you, and hopefully we'll see you when you get to New York. Tune in next Monday for George Porter Jr., The Meters, Robert Palmer. Oh, you name it. This guy's played with everyone. What a great interview that's going to be. So check in next week. Thanks so much for listening, and we will see you again next week. This is David Gross for the Bass Guitar Channel radio show on CygnusRadio.com.